Total cost of ownership as a metric is, one of the most critical, if not the most critical, for fleets in consideration of a vehicle. But beyond acquisition costs, it's ongoing maintenance cost. From a maintenance perspective, REE Corners are quite novel in that, again, because they're an entirely self-contained unit, they can be removed and replaced on a vehicle in less than an hour.
Welcome back to another episode of Point B, a Cibros podcast where we interview industry experts about the latest innovations and trends in automotive technology and the connected vehicle industry.
Welcome to our Point B podcast, where we discuss the future of mobility and transportation products and services. My name is Steve Schwinke, Vice President of Customer Engagement at Cibros. And in today's episode, we're going to explore how REE Automotive is disrupting the EV commercial market and unlocking new possibilities for fleets through its innovative technology and approach to manufacturing. And joining me will be Kim Mathers, Vice President of Product Marketing and Strategy at REE. Kim has an extensive 20-year background, having executive roles at Mopar, Maserati North America, and Chrysler Group. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you, Steve. It's great to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity on the podcast today to talk about REE Automotive.
Let's start with you telling us a little bit about REE's automotive platforms and what you are doing to differentiate your approach to vehicle technology.
Sure. So REE Automotive is an automotive tech company. And what we do with our core technology, which is a REE Corner and X-by-wire control, enabling platforms to enable vehicles that can really be any size or shape with some really significant operational efficiencies, which are beneficial for the end user. So with this white label approach, vehicles powered by REE, initially focused on commercial vehicle applications, really get commercial fleets, EVs done right. So it's not just about a zero emission vehicle, it's about building a vehicle that commercial fleets actually want and need to help them expedite the transition to zero emission vehicles.
So you said X-by-wire. Is that really just another name for drive-by-wire? And does that include like things like steering, driving, braking?
Drive-by-wire, probably a little more common terminology in the industry, but really drive-by-wire is a type of X-by-wire. So our core technology is what we call a REE Corner. It's a self-contained module that takes a lot of a significant portion of the vehicle function, so driving, steering, braking, suspension, off various locations throughout the vehicle and puts it in this one compact module. It enables a lot of advantages because what we do from a control perspective is we control it by wire. So we actually have, and this is novel, and we believe that we're the first in the industry to do so, is that we control 3 parameters through by wire. So drive by wire, but also steer by wire and brake by wire. So as you can imagine, if you take those mechanical connections that exist today between vehicles left to right, front to back, you take those off the vehicle because the control is all by wire. And what you really do is enable a lot of advantages that have significant benefit to the end user, right? Because we can get low, we're fully flat from front to rear. We have a lot of flexibility in platform variation. So with respect to wheelbase and track, because we can position the corners anywhere. We're not constrained by mechanical constraints like steering gears, like drive shafts, like prop shafts.
So Kim, tell me about your current focus. Is it just on medium duty truck platforms, or will this technology really work for class 1 through class 6 platforms?
Yeah, that's a great question, Steve. So while the REE Corner and control approach will work and can be applicable for any size or shape class application between class 1 and class 6, we at REE Auto are initially focused on medium duty commercial vehicles. And we achieve that with our flagship program, which we have announced, which we call P7. So P7 is, again, suitable for class 3 to 5, and we have a couple of discrete products related to that. We have a class 4 chassis cab, we have a class 5 strip chassis, but there's a couple of reasons why we've decided to focus on that segment, class 3 to 5, and space of commercial vehicles. And it's really that REE Corner technology and the advantages that it enables that we talked a little bit about before happen to be a really great application for commercial vehicles.
Tell me more about this REE Corners and some of the things that you can, actually visualize and see the advantages. Like from what I'm reading about REE, you provide this ability to have this fully flat chassis, which increases cargo space, right, for the overall truck that in which that chassis is a part of. But also there's things like ingress and egress, which is much easier. Is that right?
That is exactly right, Steve. So again, because we're by-wire without the mechanical interfaces, specifically what that can do is get us low, because you don't have to have the platform up and over drive shafts, prof shafts, etc. So we can get low, we can get flat because there's nothing there in between the wheels. And so if you think about advantages of that is we have a lower step height. So from an ergonomic perspective, drivers, in some cases, last mile delivery fleets, 150 stops per day can be pretty typical for an urban route. That's a lot of in and out of the vehicle. So for example, our Class 5 strip chassis, when it's mated with a Morgan Olson walk-in van body, such as Proxima, which they have under development, what it gets us is a full 12-inch reduction in step and height. So that's one full step. So if you think about 150 routes, stops on a route in and out of a vehicle, some significant ergonomic advantages. But in addition to that, with the by-wire, for example, we refer to it as being AD ready, as being future-proof, because it doesn't matter whether it's a driver controlling the vehicle, whether it's a remote control, whether it's an AD stack, whether it's class level 4, level 5. And it gives us a lot of flexibility with respect to driver placement. It can be left-hand drive, right-hand drive, driver forward, driver center, driver rearward. So when you start to think about the flexibility that exists in the design, it's really wide open, again, enabled by that X-by-wire control. Our REE Corner technology, because they are entirely self-contained, and we have by-wire for drive, by-wire for steering, we have steering actuation on a corner, we have drive, an electric motor within a corner. So if you think about one corner, replicating it 4 times on a vehicle, that gets you all-wheel drive, all-wheel steer. So when you really fundamentally change the function of a vehicle, and a Class 5 truck might drive like a Class 2B truck, or even better from a turning radius perspective, like Proxima powered by REE, then you can really change the fundamental economics of how many packages, how much stuff you can carry on a given route.
So we have these absolute performance enhancements that come with your technology. But I want to come back to this total cost ownership, or TCO. And I think that's one of the areas that might be slowing down EV adoption.
You know, there's a perception about electric vehicles and the cost relative to ICEs, and at the end of the day for fleets, right, it's a business, it's a pragmatic decision. And so that environment, those economics are really changing now as electric vehicles are coming closer to parity with ICEs, especially when you consider the incentives at the federal level, at the state level. So acquisition cost, those dynamics are really changing. But TCO as a metric, total cost of ownership as a metric, is, you know, one of the most critical, if not the most critical, for fleets in consideration of a vehicle. But beyond acquisition costs, it's ongoing maintenance cost. From a maintenance perspective, REE Corners are quite novel in that, again, because they're an entirely self-contained unit, they can be removed and replaced on a vehicle in less than an hour. So if you think about the implications from a maintenance perspective, one part number to carry for service parts instead of many. In the case where a repair in the event of an accident or something like that, anything over an hour, you just remove and replace the REE Corner, and most critically get that vehicle, which is an asset, which is a tool for that fleet, back on the road. So with reduced maintenance, with reduced downtime, with the increased operational time of that asset, again, a significant advantage. The other thing, we talked a little bit about future-proof, right? Our vehicles are AD ready right now. If at some later date a fleet wants to implement autonomous driving, level 4, level 5, or even in a contained environment like a dock, which is probably a natural evolution, a natural transition, a natural first step for the application of autonomous driving. our hardware is ready. And so if you think about in 5 years and 10 years, it's not additional cost for a fleet to implement autonomous driving on the vehicle side. So there's some significant advantages there. And again, with the self-contained REE Corner unit, you can take it off, refurbish it towards the end of life. And if you think about putting that back on a vehicle mechanically from a drivetrain, steering, braking perspective, you have essentially a new or near new vehicle in the corners. From a residual perspective, which is a big component of TCO, also a significant advantage. You really can start to realize more significant advantages at the fleet level, right? If you don't need to have as many vehicles in your fleet, if you can run bigger vehicles instead of smaller because you're much more maneuverable. And further, we also like to talk about the upside, right? It's not just cost of the asset, but what you can get out of it. So the total benefit of ownership. So if you consider driving down costs, but also at the same time increasing the advantage of each, when you break that down into like a cost per mile or a cost per package sort of metric, it's really a double advantage.
I like that. Can we create our own acronym, TBO, total benefit of ownership?
It exists. It's certainly not as prevalent as TCO, but it's certainly a message we are trying to spread.
That's the first time I've heard it, but I like it. It makes a lot of sense, in terms of what's going on. Let's shift gears here a little bit. And we talked a little bit earlier about how you're using vehicle data to improve your product. Can you maybe expand on that a little bit more for us?
If you think about one of our individual REE Corners, we have dozens of sensors creating tens of thousands of data points per corner per minute. So immense amount of data. But it's really about, from a fleet perspective, data is useless, overwhelming, not helpful, unless there is an appropriate, a good interface and a path to actionable insights, right? So our REE Corners in control have an immense amount of information, which in particular can be combined with other inputs for truly rich and deep data insights. And that's where the real, I think, opportunity comes for fleets in terms of, getting away from maintenance schedules that are only built upon mileage or only a function of mileage, right? When you can understand what's actually happening in the vehicle, what has the duty cycle been like, how has it been driven, et cetera, you can make significantly more intelligent decisions.
So, Kim, we've talked really about the technology and the disruption that you're bringing into the EV space. We also talked about this total cost of ownership and total benefit that comes along with your approach. But we haven't really talked about manufacturing. And I know that's another area that you're differentiating yourselves in the market.
I would describe our general manufacturing strategy as similar to our strategy on the product side, which is really critical is flexibility, modularity, scalability. So our approach is really low capex, highly automated, cloud-based manufacturing. So what does that mean? Low capex, from that perspective, it is we have 10,000 vehicle set capacity right now at Coventry. And the idea is that as we scale globally, in general, we like to be, or we intend to be, close to our customers' locations. So we can have, I'll say, a replica of the initial line, which will be controlled centrally, so we can bring it up quickly by mitigating costs because of the similarity. And so it's really about efficiencies and flexibility and a path to scaling.
Well, Kim, this has been very enlightening. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners about REE?
Yeah, so maybe less so on the what's to come long term. In the nearer term, again, we have focus on two discrete products right now, chassis cab class 4 and a class 5 strip chassis. So we will have our first deliveries to dealers by year end, by Q4 2024. So some really exciting times ahead.
Well, we'll be cheering you from the sidelines here because you're working on technology that's going to make a difference and really just trying to help us, build a future that we all want to live in. So right now, this is all the time that we have. And I want to thank Kim for joining us. And I can't wait to see those REE trucks and chassis on the road and helping transform a segment of the mobility space that will all help us in the future. So Kim, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Steve.
Thank you for tuning in to Point B. Join us next time for more auto tech innovations and trends. Point B is brought to you by Sibros.